all about writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 1. I'm Sara, and I am here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher.
And I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter. And today, we're going to be talking about why should you listen to this? Why should you listen to us when you want to learn all about writing? What do we have to offer? There's lots and lots of good podcasts out there. There's lots of good talks. So what do we bring to the table? Now, this is going to be a little funny because I'm Canadian and Sara's from Wisconsin, and neither of us like to brag. So it's going to be really hard now for us to try and tell you why we're so awesome that you should listen to us, and we actually have something to offer. So I'm going to throw it to Sara first. And how about you tell us why you're so awesome and what experience you have in the publishing industry?
Shouldn't you, in true Canadian style, also apologize to me for throwing it back at me because I feel like
Right, sorry.
that was missing.
Sorry. Yeah.
I know. Sorry to call it out. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's fine.
No, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay. Well, I think first and foremost in our bios, we talk about why we are even talking about this and some of our credentials. But I also, want to expound on some of that. We are both traditionally published with different pieces of the HarperCollins world. I'm in the, Morrow part of it and in the nonfiction, and you are in the sci-fi, and I can never remember your imprint.
Harper Voigt.
Yes, fancy. Yes. So we do come from a traditional world, but we also have spent a lot of time in the indie world and working on various aspects of the publishing industry. And we're coming at this with extreme variance in what we know. I mean, I spend a lot of time in Hollywood. I'm a screenwriter. I know how to write a pilot and how to write a feature. I've been hired by producers to do so. And you know all about the ins and outs of the editing world and the marketing world because you lived that for many years as a publisher. So we're coming, it's not even bragging, I guess. I would say we're here to share and impart the working knowledge that we've had with more than just one aspect of the industry. And we're going to be bringing in people from all those walks to talk about writing with us. And it's exciting because it's going to be people from all over the world, and it's going to be people who touch Hollywood, who touch, different genres. So that's
as I think about it, this could very well be a therapy session for us too, because having been a publisher in the traditional publishing world for a decade, there's a lot that I'm still unpacking from all that. We'll talk about that in detail another time, but it is a very arcane industry. It has a lot of strange rules, and figuring out how to survive in the publishing industry is an adventure all on its own. So anyone who's listening, if you're an author or an aspiring author trying to figure out how to break in to the publishing world, you're not alone. There are an awful lot of people out there who have no idea how to break in. Like you hear about the bestsellers, but how do you become one? And do you have to become one? And what are the paths to publication? And do I need an agent? Do I need an editor? All these questions. And Sara and I have been through this. We've been through this as authors, traditionally published and indie published. We've both been editors, so we've both been on the other side of it, where we work with authors who come to us. And I ran a publishing house for 10 years. It was a small Canadian press, so I'm not going to say that I was running Penguin. I wasn't. I was running a little publishing house called Promontory, based on the west coast of Canada. But I did interact with New York quite often, and I had to deal with the national distribution channels and just learning all the ins and outs. And a lot of the things that seem to make no sense about publishing, I can probably answer why. They aren't necessarily good answers, but at least I can tell you why the industry does what it does. So I think, the breadth of experience that we have will help us. But I know that both you and I, Sara, identify ourselves as authors first. Yes, we've done other things. Yes, we're both editors. Yes, I was a publisher. Yes, you're a screenwriter. But I think being an author is where we really live and breathe, and that's what drives us to do this. And so, yeah, I mean, why are we doing this? I think it's to help other authors not have to necessarily go through the same quagmire that we did to get to where we are.
Well, and hopefully get questions answered. I do hope we hear from everybody out there listening who might have a very specific question, and no matter how specific it is, I think we absolutely would be able to answer it in some part based on our working knowledge, our experience, or if we don't know, we know someone who does because we've spent so long in this industry. And I definitely want to say too, the industry is wide, varied, and always changing. And a big part of, even though we're going to be talking about skills and information that is sometimes more technical, the marketing side, the tons of editing processes that can happen, dealing with sales teams and their choices. I mean, I still remember us going back and forth over titles of books because, we had one and then the sales team wanted something else, but then it didn't match. And, things that people don't think about on any aspect of publishing that we can talk to in a way that is also ever changing. And we are going to be very upfront about things in writing that aren't out there, how subjective this industry is, right? It's not an objective industry at all. Nobody is going to ever write a book that everybody loves. That's an impossible thing. If you go on
Absolutely.
Goodreads, like the Bible has like bad reviews. It's the Bible. And people are like 1 star.
Yeah.
So you have to walk in knowing that whatever you do is subjective. It's to the whims of the industry itself. I mean, you remember I got shut down. My book launch died because of COVID, because it happened 6 weeks after COVID started, and I lost my entire launch, totally died, and never can be returned. There are things that happen that are out of your control too, outside of the subjectivity of this, that we're going to talk to outside of just the technical aspects and the discussing world building or, point of view. We're going to be talking about the subjectivity of it too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, there's lots of different aspects of writing. This is all about writing. There's lots of different things that we want to cover, and one of the big topics is going to be like the craft of writing. Like you mentioned, like world building and characters and plot and structure. Another is going to be the business side of writing too, because that's the part I think that a lot of authors really struggle to understand. And I'm happy to sort of discuss my battle scars with that. I'm sure you are too, Sarah. I totally forgotten. That's right. When first big book went out right into COVID. And nobody saw that coming. That's such a bummer. Sorry. See, sorry about that.
Thank you for apologizing for world pandemic. I super appreciate that. Yeah, right. And then just as all the other stuff got going, then there was a writer's strike. So it was nonstop. Yeah, no. And for those also who are not watching this on YouTube and are listening to it, just as an FYI. Ben and I are both drinking wine as we do these podcasts. So depending on how long they are or how many we're recording in one sitting, we might get very saucy.
We should probably put a disclaimer out right now.
We're gonna. Yeah. We apologize in advance if your podcast is wine glass 3.
Yeah, it's not our intention to drop any F-bombs ever, but get us talking about marketing for a few of these. We'll see. Yeah.
Well. And I will say too that we're doing this podcast because we really love writing, and we want to, even though it's hard, and even though yes, the marketing process and the editing and doing the numbers and the math and the sales and figuring out royalties and all of that nitty gritty business stuff, like you said, in the end, because we are writers and we love writing so much, we just can't help but talk about it. And when we cooked up this idea, it was. You had brought it to me and I'm like, absolutely, we should talk about this, because when we get together, it is just hours and hours and hours of strategy and talking. And we would like to share that joy of writing with everybody, as well as our knowledge. And so we hope that it's a good time. And we do promise to keep these 30 minutes or less is what we decided. So we should never fill your ear too long unless you binge listen. Is that a thing? Binge watch and binge listen?
Yeah, totally is. Yeah. You know, that's a really good point though about how we want to share because we love writing so much. And we know how writing can be a very, very solitary profession. You know, if you're sitting by yourself and you're a passionate writer, but you know, maybe your spouse or your partner isn't that into it, you know, and they support you, but whatever, they don't want to talk about it, you know, and your friends don't want to hear about it until they can buy the book. And it can be very lonely, honestly. So we want to let everybody know that you're not alone, not at all. There's lots of people like you out there who have a lot of the same questions, a lot of the same aspirations, and we're just like you too. You know, we love writing, we love telling stories, and we have learned how to just hunker down in front of that keyboard and churn away for hours at a time by ourselves. But I don't know about you, Sarah. I am never more stoked and more happy than when the writing is going well. And I will emerge from my cave having been writing for 5 hours. I'm just like, another thing, another thing, another thing. And then they do this. And my wife will nod. That's nice, dear. Anyway, go get the kids. So it's something that we can share all together here, you know, because we know that writing, often you're by yourself, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. So if we can help you be part of a community, then we'd love to be part of that.
I would also like to, just on a slight tangent on that, like, you know, my husband is a finance guy. I he's graduated now. Like, I totally got him through senior year of college because I wrote his term papers for him because he can't type 5 sentences together without freaking out. So, I he listens, but could you imagine if it was like two writers married? Like, I feel like that happened a few times in history and they were like famous for it. And I feel like it's because, like, you know, they were married writers. Like,
Mhm.
maybe it's such an anomaly. It's an impossible. You can't have
Yeah.
too many writers
And
unless you're going to be famous.
they seem to also be very tempestuous relationships that involve a lot of alcohol and cheating on each other. So yeah, maybe it's better actually. Maybe it's better if you're a writer and you're not married to another writer. I don't know. Just, you know,
Well, you know what? That made me think of that book. Here, we'll talk about writing a little bit. Did you ever read the book, The Secret Life of Mrs. London?
No, do tell.
Oh, it's a book about Jack London's wife.
Oh,
And you are not wrong about that tempestuous and, you know, adulterous, insane existence. And I know it's a historical fiction book, but the author's quite did quite a good job. Rebecca did quite a good job. And it was, I read that and I was like, wow, if that's even a fraction of how it went down, no, thank you. I do not want to be married to anybody who's remotely a genius writer.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. You know, you and I each have the other half of our marriage, which is the stable one, you know, the good providing one, and then it gives us the freedom to go off and chase our dreams and be thoroughly irresponsible in our creativity. So,
Mhm.
you know, it works out really well. It works out
Yeah,
really well.
it does.
Yeah.
But
So,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
oh,
Go ahead,
no,
sir.
you go. Sorry, you
No,
go.
sorry. Um, so I mean, really, that's it. That's what this podcast is going to be all about. It's going to be all about writing, and we're going to cover lots of different topics, like the craft of writing, the business side of writing, just the daily grind of writing, like the writer's life, and any question is welcome. So if you have something you're wondering about, and we haven't talked about it, then just drop us a line, and we'll be more than happy to do a whole show on that topic. More than happy to.
Yeah,
We're doing this because we love it and because we want to connect with other writers and help them to enjoy the journey as much as we have.
I would agree. And I would say that that about sums up this initial uh, podcast video that we're doing. And that would be our show for today. Episode 1 in the books. And we definitely have to remind anyone listening to subscribe so you don't miss the future in-depth chats. We are already plotting and planning. We have a list of what do we say, over 100 and some ideas already that we're
Oh
going to
yeah,
bring to the table. And then please don't forget to leave a review, which will help us a ton as we get this going. And just as a reminder on top of that, which will be in the information as well, you can also find more out about Ben at BennettRColes.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram.
and you can catch up with Sarah at sarahdahlman.com and on Instagram. So thanks for joining us today. Again, please reach out if there are any topics that you'd like us to cover, and we'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.